homicide, sexual assault, rape, sexual assault, rape, sexual assault, homicide, sexual assault, homicide, rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, sexual assault, rape, homicide.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I hope you're doing so dang well. Just give a little bit of pep in your step on this Monday morning. Right out of the gate, that's our border czar, Tom Homan, saying, "Good morning, America. Let's be uplifted." Now, I think there could be a better beat for that. Cole, give me something I can work with here.
Homicide, sexual assault, rape, sexual assault, rape, sexual assault, homicide, sexual assault, homicide, rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, sexual assault, rape, homicide.
I mean, it's just crazy. I am joined, as always, by producer Jaden, producer Cole, and then special days we get producer Kayla, and we're very grateful for her. Grateful for all of you for joining us. We're here live, but you can watch it back whenever you like, Monday through Friday. It's a pretty spectacular experience, I would say. What other shows do you get to start with that? And then what other shows do you get to start with this?
Watching Game of Thrones, and I swear to God, if I see the actor Joffrey anywhere, I'm going to be like, this guy, like, you literally watch it, you're like, what a piece of, you watch The Mom, you watch some movies.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones messed me up, and I think it messed up a lot of the world because it got everybody into incest porn, because people started watching it. And how many people turned off the TV when Jaime and Cersei's hooked up? Or how many people got quiet and watched it?
This face from Patrick Bet-David. Wait. What? Now, by the way, I've never watched Game of Thrones, but I've also never heard that as the takeaway from anyone who has watched Game of Thrones. And the guy that he's talking to says it like, obviously, this is all of our experiences.
What year was that interview?
Just now, recently, over the weekend. Yeah.
He just watched that show's been done for like 5 years.
Well, but no, he's been dealing with the aftermath that everyone experienced, which is being into incest porn.
Yeah, no, what I took away from that was you can't trust anyone, and maybe everyone could be your enemy one day, and he took away not that.
Okay, so now that you're all warmed up for the day, we have a lot to talk about. Beyond that, Donald Trump did an interview that went all over the place, and he seems just so dejected from this whole process. You hear these reports that Trump is quote-unquote bored with the war he started. That's not that's not an option that you have. You can feel regret, you can feel panic, you could feel successful, you could feel optimistic. One of the options as president you don't get to feel when you start a war is boredom, okay? That's the one you don't get to feel. The right, this is another story we're going to get into, is in this weird circular firing squad situation where they realized that the call is coming from inside the house in terms of people that they don't trust. And so they're all coming up with different theories about each other and trying to decipher who's the Fed and who's not the Fed, okay? That's the confusing part for all of them. Fox News airing truth that Trump doesn't like and that causing him to be angry. Tim Burchett dropping a bombshell conspiracy theory about the Butler assassination attempt that relates to mind control and MK Ultra. Trump's thinking about starting another war. Like two negatives make a positive. So isn't that the phrase? Two negatives do make a positive. He's going with that. Maybe people will stop talking about the lack of success with the Iran war if they're talking about a different war. Maybe my finger won't hurt if I chop off my arm type of logic. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks the whole alien files debacle is an attempt to distract from Trump's failures. So as you can see, if any story doesn't tickle you as we're going through the show, just wait till the next one. I'm sure it'll be your cup of tea. We have a wide range of things to get into. As always, in between stories, I'll check in with the audience, read super chats, and thank people for becoming a member, if anyone does, by clicking the join button on YouTube. As always, that is greatly, greatly appreciated. I am still recovering from our Friday booze and the news bonus show where we had a lot of new members. Did I read the new members? I think I did. Yeah, sometimes I forget because by the end of the show, my water's been cut, if you know what I'm saying. And yeah, that really sent me into a let's just do booze in the news, but remove the news part for the rest of the night. Do you know what I mean? And still recovering from that. Hope you had a great weekend. And of course, our mothers out there, we love you dearly. I got to celebrate my mom and my 2 grandmas on a deep level, and that was very wonderful, because who would we be? Nobody. We'd just be some sperm in your father's you know what, if it weren't for our mothers. Have you ever thought of it that way? It's really heartening. That's what I told my grandparents. No, I didn't. Okay, wow. Well, with that being said, let's get into this story. Donald Trump sat for an interview with this person, Cheryl Atkinson, I think is her name, on our show Full Measure. Didn't go well. The first clip will really send your head spinning, okay? But as he's doing this interview, I'm kind of merging 2 stories that I found interesting. Before I show you the first clip, there's a little bit of a debacle in the White House right now, okay? The problem they have is that everything keeps leaking. It's all leaking, baby. Every little anecdote about Trump melting down, them trying to keep him out of the Situation Room because they think he'll mess up an operation, which might be the first time that's ever happened in the history of presidential administration. So they said, hey, Trump, while we do this military operation, we'll keep you in a different room and we'll like all be in there and you can scream at us, get your frustration out, as opposed to doing it to the generals or, directing drone strikes out of your rage or something like that. Or what is being said about the failures of the Iran war, or who is covering up what with the Epstein files, or why are they everything's leaking. And so Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a stand on leaking. I'm going to send out a memo, a directive to White House staff and say, you listen to me. I will use my hair helmet to headbutt you that has the strength, this hair, of titanium, and I will headbutt you with it if you leak. And so that was her message, right? White House staffers, stop leaking. And do you know how we found out that she told staffers that? It leaked. Okay, so I just want to talk about this story before we get into the interview. They're not really related, but I find it interesting. Susie Wiles' email demanding White House staffers stop leaking was leaked, which is just a great headline. I don't know why that cracked me up, but she's like, arg, you got me again. An email from President Donald Trump's White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, ordering staff to stop leaking to the press, was leaked to the press on Friday. And then it goes through the specifics. But essentially, she wasn't saying any particular instance. She wasn't saying this was directly in response to a particular leak, but just that everything, leaky faucet, is the Trump administration. And we find out about everything behind the scenes, which isn't normally how administrations are supposed to be. But it demonstrates to you, even with the attempts Trump has made to try to make his administration a bunch of loyalists, there's still a lot of people that want to undermine the administration for obvious reasons. So we keep finding out. And we even find out about her trying to stop the leaking, which leaks, which is pretty ironic. So with that in mind, here is Trump in a very chaotic situation, trying to give his insights on different issues, starting with vaccines.
I think there should be a vaccine safety commission.
A commission on what?
Vaccine safety, something to examine.
He's so out of it, guys. He is gone. Do you think there should be a vaccine safety commission? A commission on what? Oh, I don't know. Vaccine safety? Now, of course, the interviewer is setting up a question that seeks to undermine vaccine safety. There's already a zillion vaccine safety commissions. That's what all those studies are, okay? And that's how we keep learning the safety and efficacy of vaccines. Even the investigation and studies that were commissioned by the FDA under RFK Jr.'s leadership, there were studies going on. They reveal that it was the shingles and the COVID vaccines were safe and effective. Once again, as RFK Jr. is the HHS secretary, once again, that conclusion is demonstrated. So what does RFK Jr. do? We talked about this last week. Hide it. Don't release that to the public. But it leaked.
You think there should be a vaccine safety commission?
A commission on what?
Vaccine safety, something to examine, something like
Look,
he
I
proposed
believe
back
in vaccines, but I don't believe that, you have to have a mandate for all of them. The polio vaccine's amazing. It's, wiped it out. And I believe in vaccines, but, I think we were up to 88 vaccines. And I really feel that vaccines, if they were given in smaller quantities, they want to cut some out, and that's good too. And I agree with that. 82 is too many. If you look at Denmark and other countries, you have 12, 14, I think 17. And we have like 82. But I look at these beautiful little babies and they get a vat, I mean, so like a big glass of stuff pumped into their bodies. And
is this something that you saw in a doctor's office, or are you talking about your experiences on Epstein's jet? Where are the beautiful little babies having huge vats of liquid? This sounds like some QAnon stuff he's describing. You mean whenever they're extracting adrenochrome that you gobble down like a whale? Is that what you're talking about? What big, beautiful babies? Wait, did he say big? I don't think he said big. Beautiful, big, beautiful babies like my big, beautiful bill. Big, beautiful babies are having big, beautiful vats of liquid injected. I'll fact check that in a second, but first, Kayla.
Oh, I was going to say it must have been on Epstein's island because we all know that he was at none of the births of his children.
Yeah, how he would, that's the other funny thing. How would he know what vaccines kids are getting? He was not one time there for that.
Beautiful little babies, and they get a vat, I mean, so like a big glass of stuff pumped into their bodies. And I think it's a very negative thing to do. And I would like to see it. I'm not doing this in terms of Bobby or not. I hope they agree with that, but that's just my opinion. I would love to see much smaller shots, like 4 visits to the doctor.
Okay, so he's just speaking out of his rear end, obviously. But whenever he said vat, that was an interesting choice of word, right? Vat. So I looked up vat to remind myself what a vat was. Podcast listeners, picture like one of those huge wine things where they make wine or beer, like those huge metal containers. That's what he says this gets injected into a little beautiful baby, is a big vat of liquid of vaccines. So that's obviously completely made up. Anyone who actually went to their kids ever to the doctor's office who actually parented it all, unlike him, would know that that's silly. And he tries to make it seem like there's 80 plus diseases people are being vaccinated against. That's not true. I think it's like 17 throughout your childhood that you're protected. And by the way, if it became 80, if there were 80 diseases we were able to effectively protect kids from, cool. I would want them to be protected from however many diseases you can protect them from, because the reason that these have become a part of the routine vaccination schedule for children is because they're effective, and we've literally minimized so much death among children from diseases because of these life-saving vaccines. It's true. It's demonstrated over and over again, even under RFK Jr.'s institution. So clearly and unequivocally, he has to hide it because it contradicts his conclusions that he wants people to believe. So Trump's just kind of spraying out a bunch of falsehoods there. And I think what's going on is he wanted to win over. I don't think he personally actually has concerns about childhood vaccinations, okay? But the damage that's being done by what I think really is happening here, which is he saw a way to get a certain section of the country to support him, which was that Maha movement. And among that is a lot of the anti-vaxxers, the RFK Jr. type. And so I just read some reporting about his fear of getting rid of RFK Jr., even though he kind of wants to, is that he'll lose that block of support of people who weren't really MAGA before, but became MAGA because it merged with Maha, which is RFK Jr. Even though, of course, while we all want America to be healthy, one of the things that RFK Jr. is undermining is an example of something that is good for our health. He's undermining something that actually makes progress in childhood health and then in adult health, of course. And it's fascinating to know that even he should know it now because those results came out while he was HHS secretary. So there's that. I don't think this is a belief Trump really has. So then he has to like virtue signal by thinking of the one thing he heard one time, which was the vaccines are a lot of liquid. When you actually look into it, it's not too much liquid. Okay, we've gone through that before. It's not a vat. And anyone who actually got shots. Now maybe he gets the 80 plus number from like how many individual shots you get throughout your childhood. Okay. Like what's supposed to be scary? It's not like that. What he wants us to perceive it as is that you have a vat sitting next to a kid right when they're born, okay, a little baby, and then 80 different shots are like poked into the baby all at once, and it's like, ah, and then it becomes a monster. Okay, so there's that. Now we get to a different subject. Here we go.
Where are we in the war if we've not yet gotten the nuclear materials, the enriched uranium from them?
Well, we'll get that at some point, whatever we want. We have it surveilled. I did a thing called Space Force, and they are watching that if somebody walked in, they can tell you his name, his address, the number of his badge. No, we have that very well surveilled. If anybody got near the place, we will know about it, and we'll blow them up.
So is it accurate to say you think the combat operations are over and done, but there
No,
may
I
be...
didn't say that. I said they are defeated, but that doesn't mean they're done. We could go...
Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Is defeated not the end of a war? I think that's literally how we use that term.
And for 2 more weeks and do every single target. We have certain targets.
Hit it for me, Cole. 2 more weeks. Just give it over and over and over and
2
over.
weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
That's how you know there is no end in sight, is when he starts saying 2 weeks, okay? Because that is, whenever he actually has a timeline, he'll say a different number. It'll be like, oh yeah, in the next 3 days, or within the end of the month. But when he starts going 2 weeks, you know he's completely aimless, similar to his healthcare plan that was going to come out 2 weeks from 2020, I think. So just... that's something you're very clear about. The next question he gets, once again, that he's confused about, like the vaccine question, she goes, are you going to set up a vaccine safety commission? He's like, for what? A commission for what? Similarly, he's going to be confused about this Fort Knox question. So you need the context, because you would think he doesn't know anything about it. Look at back a little while ago, he was promising to take Elon to Fort Knox to make sure gold is there.
We're also going to Fort Knox. I'm going to go with Elon. And would anybody like to join us? Because we want to see if the gold is still there. We want to see. Wouldn't that...
So he was going around earlier in his administration saying that constantly, to which everyone said, do we have reason to believe the gold is not there? But Trump was going to examine it. So he did get a follow-up question on that, which was this.
What happened to the audit of Fort Knox?
Which one are you talking about?
There was, I think when you first got into office, you and Elon Musk talked about auditing the
Well, we
gold to
wanted
make
to go
sure it's
knock
there.
on the door, Fort Knox, very thick door, and to see whether or not we have any gold in there, because we'll take a look at it. It's a very interesting question, yeah. We played with that. I wonder if they left the gold in Fort Knox, because they steal a lot.
No need to really do that, though?
Well, I don't know. I think it's... I do want to go to Fort Knox sometime. I want to see if the gold is there, which I'm sure it will be.
Okay. And then he makes you feel dumb. Why are you asking me? Why would I do that? What the heck would I do that for? You're like, I don't know. You were the one bringing it up. You made us think we needed to go examine Fort Knox, as if someone had taken whatever's supposed to be there away. And finally asked about his upcoming meeting with Xi Jinping.
You'll soon be heading to China.
Yeah.
How's your relationship with China's leaders, and do you have a top?
That answer makes me think he might not have known about this trip. I think Cheryl might be breaking news to him that he has that plan, that he has that trip planned.
China?
Yeah.
How's your relationship with China's leaders, and do you have a top goal in mind?
My relationship is very good with President Xi. I don't know the other leaders, but President Xi is a good man, smart man, loves China. And I look forward to being...
It's just bottom of the barrel analysis. All right, let me see. What can I tell you about the goals for this summit? Xi Jinping, he comes from a place called China, and I think that he loves China, and he's a smart whippersnapper. I think that's sort of what I can think of off the cuff. Thank you, sir. Deep analysis. Thank you very much. Before getting to our next segment, let me just thank Bryn942 for becoming a member by clicking the join button. To anyone else who is not yet a member, oh my gosh, you're missing out. We just have a good time. You know, there's something, it's like, picture how you act out at a cafe with your friends, with a bunch of people around, okay? That's one way you can have fun, you can laugh. But then picture when you're just with your friends in your man cave or your girl cave. What's your lady lair, okay? Right? That's like the members only, because it's so safe, it's so small, and we say we can really go wherever we'd like to go with this conversation. Pretty cool, and it's so simple. That's the beautiful part. For a long time, we did memberships on a different site, Patreon, but then you have to go, you got to Google it, blah, blah, blah. With this, literally, it's where you're watching, if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to the podcast, you just hop over to YouTube, find our channel, find the join button, click it. The join button, it's right there. Boom, boom, boom. And then you're a member. And then what I hear is that once you go member, you don't go back, is the phrase that I've heard circulating around the community. All right, into this. All right, at the beginning of the show, I teased this, but let me give you the context again. There's an interesting phenomenon going on within the right-wing ecosystem, something we've been covering very intimately, both because it's relevant to the forces of power in the Republican Party and upcoming electoral outcomes. The fracturing of MAGA and the right-wing world is going to impact the electoral outcomes. Then also, let's be honest, because it's just kind of darn entertaining, okay? It's kind of fun to watch all of the infighting. And for so long, it felt that, especially in the end of Biden's administration, all I was hearing about was left-wing infighting, and it's tiring, and then people are accusing you of being a traitor to the movement. So just observing it with the other folks is a little bit titillating. But here's the difference in left-wing versus right-wing. With right-wing, it gets so much weirder, and it goes so low so fast. The low blows, they just keep coming. And the way I imagined it is going into Trump being elected, and then him being elected, and then him being inaugurated. They were all in a house together, and they were saying, the only people out to get us, the only non-trustworthy enemies of ours are outside of the house on the left. The left-wingers out there. We're all safe and cozy in here, and we're happy. And then at some point they said the call's coming from inside the house. So now they're all in there like, what the heck? Who are you? Are you a traitor? Who's a traitor? And they can't get it straight. So here's a clip from Tim Pool's show where he says that Nick Fuentes, the white nationalist commentator, has been sort of accusing Tucker Carlson of somehow being a government agent of some kind. Okay, maybe of a foreign government or of this government or something. And Tim Pool says, there might be something to that. And it reminded me, before I play that clip, if you'll take it down, of this exchange whenever Tucker and Nick Fuentes had their interview.
Well, I thought you were a Fed. I thought you were a Fed.
I was a Fed.
Yeah.
I'm not a Fed. But whatever, I don't care what people think.
We showed each other a badge as we know well.
No, but I thought you were a Fed because I was like, why not? It's not cucking to say you're not talking about all Jews when you oppose a foreign policy position. It's not. There's nothing liberal about that. It's just
what a weird thing to have to specify that's not cucking. Okay, so I thought you were a Fed. Well, I thought you were a Fed. Was an embodiment of how their fighting happens. It's not just you're a traitor to the movement, or you don't agree with me enough, or you don't think this on foreign policy or that on health care. It's like you might be an asset of a foreign government. That's where it really quickly descends. And apparently Tim Pool is sort of convinced about this, about Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I will say
That's
this
Candace.
about Nick, though. The thing I hate the most about Fuentes is he has so much charisma, man. He has riz. I'm not going to lie.
I'm sorry. I like Nick.
Talk about cucking.
He's probably one of the better podcasters as far as his tone, pacing, attention to detail goes.
He is.
You just have to hope
He has many bad
tired of
opinions.
losing, frankly.
But he has many opinions I don't like.
I get it.
I do not agree with him on largely on issues of race, and but he made a few important points. One, he called out Candace Owens for lying.
That's good.
But he also pointed something else out recently.
They're such cowards. It's so funny because how many people will call out Candace Owens? Lots of people. How many people will call out Trump? Lots of people. How many people? Whatever. But it's funny where the Tim Pools really want their audience to know that he gets some of Fuentes' appeal, right? He can't just be like, this guy's freaking crazy. He has to go, listen. So I don't agree on everything on race, but man, he's funny and likable.
Out Candace Owens for lying.
That's good.
But he also pointed something else out recently. Tucker Carlson meets with heads of state in Middle Eastern countries. This is not something a podcaster does. This is something a government actor does. Tucker Carlson is not just some journalist or podcaster. He is of worldly affairs, negotiating and cutting backroom deals and advising.
Oh, back room, not on his show.
Not on his show.
Because we've had like Dominic Tarzinski on here, Polish.
That's fine.
Or whatever.
The point he was making is that your run-of-the-mill podcaster is not flying to Qatar or Saudi Arabia and meeting with the premier in private in private meetings discussing strategy.
He is getting a house in Qatar, Tim, because he's an American. Period. Because he's a free man. He's doing it to show he's an American. That was Tucker's reasoning. You have Soroke saying Tim Pool was literally paid by Russia. That's the weird part, is they'll all start take this down for a second. Jaden was going to make a graphic that says this is an Office reference because I make so many of them, but this is, caveat, an Office reference. There's a scene where Pam and Michael and Dwight and someone else are all standing there pretending they're in like a cosplay thing, and they're all pretending to point guns at each other with their fingers, and they're like, don't move. That's what they're all standing like this. Everyone in the right wing, you're like, who? Hey, I think you're being paid by a foreign government to Tucker. To which I say, I don't know, maybe. But Tim Pool, you were literally, there's the shot, you were literally paid by Russia. You were. So you would know. I guess takes one to know one. Okay.
He's not going to the White House to meet with the president. Tucker Carlson is not just some podcaster. Now, again, whatever the implication you want to get from that, that's an astute point about who people are consuming their media from, especially when it says things like, I'm tormented for supporting Trump. And his brother immediately goes, maybe Miriam Adelson's money was for a raise. And he goes, because he always knew what that money was for.
Of course.
So I think Nick makes a lot of really great points. And again, I think the reason so many young men listen to him is he's got a worldview on race particularly that I think I would describe as largely incorrect, but he hits a few points that speaks to a lot of young people. Particularly, I know where he grew up. He grew up a few miles away from.
So anyways, you get it. He's so nervous. Tim gets so nervous when he's talking about Nick. Listen, so I disagree, but like he makes a lot of good points. Like he'll say that the sky's blue, and it's like, that's a really interesting thing to say. That like Candace Owens is doing conspiracy. Like that's a really brave thing. But then I never hear him pulling up me, for example, and going, listen, I agree with some of his economic policy. But he makes some really good points on XYZ. But if he can find one little kernel of something Nick said that was correct, or that he agrees with on the like Tucker theory about being paid by somewhere or being an asset of some government, then he goes, he's making some really good point. Because there's this perpetual fear that you become an enemy of the groupers within the right-wing space, which is just so, it's like a weenie baby thing to say, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so some random incels start attacking you on the internet. What's the big fear there? Just stand up for an actual principle. I showed you that Tucker Carlson Fuentes clip. Do you remember this one from that same interview?
I'm sorry I called you gay, by the way, but I'm always, I think I'm just too old or something. I'm like, what? Why is anyone married? You tell me, why aren't people married?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's the women.
Right. So that was the interview that Tucker later said in his New York Times interview that, I regret that because I just wanted to talk about economics and the war, and it became a distraction. And, I don't actually think Fuentes is influential. And then in the interview, he's like, why are you so influential? He's just, Tucker's all bent out of shape in different directions. But then Nick goes, it's the women. Well, I don't think, I think you're proving in this interview it just might not be. It might be you, okay? And then it's funny that Tucker's reasoning for calling him gay is he's just confused that people aren't getting married. Wait, so that's why you thought Fuentes specifically was gay? And also, gay people can marry. So, what I don't understand. Nick not having a relationship could just be because he's not good at being in a relationship as opposed to his sexuality. But he is gay, obviously, so that's a different point. But just to sort of refute Tucker's reasoning behind it. Correct conclusion about Nick, wrong reasoning. And then finally from this interview that apparently Tucker wished he could have just talked about economics in.
What is porn exactly? Like, describe how available is porn?
Describe it to me. That never gets old. What is porn like? Where do you find it? What kind of content would you be shown? Who would know that you did it? Can you erase your search history? if it ends up being all really violent and sort of animal presentations, is that something that your wife would, if she came across it, be irritated by? If you lately have been watching a lot of Game of Thrones and got into incest, would the government know you're watching incest porn? Like, describe it to me, Nick, would you? You seem like the expert. So yeah, he just wanted to talk about the Iran war, you know? What is porn? He didn't have time to ask about the Iran war, but he did that. Okay, interesting. Maybe he was lying a little bit. But point is, they're all thinking, who in here is the traitor? Tim Pool has previously said he thinks Candace Owens this whole time has been a liberal op. So like, we got Candace Owens to get right-wing support so that when eventually we killed Charlie Kirk, his theory, not mine, then Candace could destroy the right wing from the inside using the Charlie Kirk assassination. That was Tim's theory. They're all over the place. And I do want to say it makes me grateful for how some within the left fight whenever they do want to fight each other. Because I don't remember this. You remember the whole should Biden drop out, shouldn't he? If he does, should it be Kamala? Should it be Newsom? Who should it be? What should happen? And there was some rage going on. And I remember doing segments where I was like, guys, be nice. We're all on the same side. And I thought it was really vicious the way people were attacking each other over where you stood on that, what should happen with the Democratic nomination issue. I now realize that was fine. It's fine to infight. You learn a lot. You flesh out issues. You hopefully the best argument wins, and that makes your movement stronger. There was some people going too far, being like, you probably want Trump to win since you don't agree with my stance on who the nominee should be. That's too far. But it wasn't like I think that you're an asset of this country or that country constantly. And in some cases, the reason they say that is because of projection. You know, like I think the reason Tim assumes other people, which Tucker could be getting, I don't know. Who am I to say? I don't know anything, really, as Tucker would put it. I've been wrong about like everything, and I've lied about like a ton. And I try my best, my very best, period, not to lie. But I mean, it keeps happening. to quote him. I think the reason a Tim looks around and goes, this person's probably being paid by a foreign country, this person, is because he was. And it's fascinating how much that runs in the background for a lot of these figures, because we've learned, like Ashley St. Clair revealed, by the way, we're still working on that expose, it's going to come out pretty soon, that so much money, foreign government money, organization money, is like getting funneled in sketchy ways to different right-wing groups and influencers in a way that, it's not that it never happens on the left, but it just doesn't happen at the same scale on the left. And there's a lot more just organic growth on the left compared to the right. Okay, let's quickly check in with the audience. Dantifa became a member by clicking the join button. I appreciate that. Tiffany also did the same thing, and that is oh so very exciting. Also exciting is our next segment. You know, whenever state TV or the equivalent of it can't exactly run cover for a government's stances and actions, it's getting bad. And Fox News is that. Like, the closest equivalent to a state TV outlet in the United States right now is Fox News. And they do their absolute best to bend the truth or completely obliterate the truth in any effort to defend Trump. But it's getting bad enough with the war and the impact of the war on the economy and Trump's campaign failures that the truth is slipping through here and there. And I'll show you in a little bit, Trump's getting really upset with some of the Fox News programming, and they're not MAGA anymore. Because at some point, you're going to have some contributor, in this case, it's Dagan McDowell, saying stuff like this. And you can tell the hosts are very uncomfortable with them airing Trump's humiliation. Let's see.
Disagreeing with you on the need for stopping fraud. Mm-hmm. And
by the way, call it corruption.
The thievery that the Trump administration just has begun to do. But to ignore the way that people feel right now about gasoline prices and mortgage rates, they're pissed off. And they have every right to be upset. And as that quote from the CEO of Heinz yesterday, Kraft Heinz.
So I did, before we get to the real notable part where she talks about the economy and Trump gaslighting people, which is crazy to hear on Fox News, but I had to actually ask the crew when I was prepping, what is she saying here? What word is this supposed to be? And I learned the word is Heinz that she was going for. Literally didn't know what word she was saying. Heinz. Heinz. Yeah.
That quote from the CEO of Heinz yesterday.
That's with love. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Heinz. That's right.
Kraft Heinz. Consumers are literally running out of money.
But who's ignoring that?
But when you talk about, when we talk about, the stock market and the AI spin, we sound like a bunch of Democrats. Because that's what the Democrats did when inflation was soaring. And it's not at 9% plus, but it's a problem. It's a problem for everyday Americans, and they're upset by it. Wait, what did revolving credit go up last month? $10 billion. It was the biggest jump in more than 2 years. People are strapped.
Yeah,
and
so you have in
it.
effect two economies going on. People are really.
So you could tell discomfort. Wait. And she goes, stop. Let me say the rest of my point. People are upset. And then she did the worst thing, if Trump was watching this, which you know he watches a lot of it, which is to say you're doing what the Democrats did. Now, I disagree partially with her assessment. There was some of that within Democratic spaces of like, things are great. And Americans were like, no, they're not. But it was a tough situation because the pandemic conditions were going to make people pee out, understandably. And the recovery was going to do a lot of disjointing things to our economy. But we actually did empirically a pretty good job of recovering, but still there was tons of pain. So then people were like, no, this isn't enough. To which Biden, for example, had to go, I know that there's a lot of problems, but just I look at the way that compared to other countries or the expectations, we're actually doing pretty good for the problems that I was inheriting. It was a hard thing to navigate, but it was hard because a lot of the reasons that the economy was the way that it was were actually because of stuff Biden inherited, not created. In Trump's cases, it's actually stuff he did. He did not have to start the war with Iran. That's making a bunch of the price problems worse. And so then in that situation, to look at people and go, no, it's great, everything's perfect, which is what Trump says, or close to it, is particularly insane. Politically and just rationally, you can take that down. And so that's what she's pointing to there, which you know Trump doesn't like. Now, again, hearing Trump sit down in interviews, talk about economic problems or be asked about them that he literally is to blame for, not macroeconomic conditions, pandemic recovery was really hard for the entire world, but like literally he started a war and then it caused gas prices to skyrocket, for example. And then he's going, no, they're actually low, which he said recently. No, they're going down. Just shh. It makes you miss, doesn't it? It makes you miss a little bit. You didn't think that you would. This.
The Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal initially called my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
He didn't say it's worked, did he? No, he's not saying it's worked. Trump goes, we did it. We made the golden age. He's saying it's working. And he was humble enough to know that shouting it's working might seem a little bit too pompous. And so he decided it would be more respectful to say it's working.
Guess
so just
what?
a few people.
It grows the economy.
Right. That's a lot less abrasive than Trump saying everything's going great. Biden was like, it might be going great. I don't know. If you disagree, don't listen to me. It makes you miss it, but it's not just that segment. I mean, you're really seeing some cracks in the Fox News coalition. Look at this.
Contributor Mark Thiessen with me now. He's got a new column out today in the Washington Post titled, Trump Risks Snatching Defeat from the Jaws of Victory. You're offering the president some advice here, including and on X, where you said, here's what Iran sees. After being warned not to, they hit UAE and fired on a U.S. ship, and we didn't respond. Instead, we suspended the Strait of Hormuz mission. They take that as weakness. They don't think Trump is willing to bomb them again. They think they have leverage. He needs to prove them wrong. What would you tell him if you had the
Exactly
opportunity?
right. So look, first of all, let's stipulate that Donald Trump's decision to do this operation is one of the most courageous things an American president has done in my lifetime. No other president. 4 presidents said Iran can't have a bomb. Donald Trump's the only one who did anything about it. But how you start a war...
Aw, that's so not true. Thank you, sir. Oh my gosh. This is what you had to do on Fox, though. He has to add the Trump, you're awesome, great, because I'm going to show you when they don't give that what Trump's reaction is. That's a little bit later in the segment. But he says, oh, it's very courageous. But obviously, it's not true. He knows that. He knows that Obama did present a solution and that was carrying through, and Trump could have left it alone, and then he ended up ripping it up. So, okay.
How you finish a war is as important as how you start it. And right now, the Iranians are not seeing that Donald Trump has all the cards. They think they have the cards. He started Project Freedom and said, if you fired a U.S. ship or fired U.S. allies, I'm going to blow you off the face of the earth. And they did exactly that. They fired at a U.S. destroyer. They fired at our allies at UAE, and we didn't do anything. And then Marco Rubio announced that that Project Operation and Epic Fury is over, and we're now into Project Freedom. And then the next day we suspended Project Freedom. So what the Iranians see, if you're looking at it from an Iranian perspective, you see weakness. You see that the president seems to not want to.
So he's accusing Trump of being weak, and there's different angles of criticism, which of course makes sense. Some people, like you heard there, that Fox contributor is saying there's a perception of weakness. Trump makes these big threats. He doesn't follow through, even though, of course, I would not want him to follow through on blowing the country off the face of the earth or whatever. But the point is that Trump, okay, a normal president, especially with a military operation, like what's not supposed to be a full-length war, you could actually sketch out a plan, okay? Here's what we do if this happens. You think that the Pentagon is constantly, with their $1 trillion budget, is constantly mapping out every possible outcome and what we would do in this situation and that situation. And you kind of have had stories where they go, oh my gosh, there was a memo as to how we would invade this country. That's weird. Like, no, it's not that weird because they kind of do that with everything. In case we go to war with Canada, maybe we need a plan for that. Like, even if we don't think it's going to happen. What are you talking about? I know. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. That's such a low-hanging, dumb joke. We love you. We love you, Canadians. I don't know why Trump is so mean to you. But they map everything out. What we would do in any situation, you think. But then we get into this, and it seems like literally no one thought for 1 second how we would go about a war. So that's what's producing different types of criticisms, but reacting to the same problem, which is that Trump has no plan and he's meandering. And that makes it even more scary when he just throws out, I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth. And then they do the thing that he said would cause that. And then he's like, we're having a really good negotiations. And these are actually really rational people. And then actually we might have to eliminate civilization. The reason we all feel like this is a chaotic news cycle is because Trump doesn't know what's going on. And he is all over the place. And so when he gets called out, like Ro Khanna went on Fox News and said, called out Trump on numerous issues, and Trump lost it on True Social, saying the sleazebag, radical left congressman, blah, attacking Ro Khanna. And at some point in his True Social posts, loses, as you can see with this headline, on the Fox host for even hosting Ro Khanna. And this is why I present to you these clips that don't seem like that harsh criticism, just acknowledging some pieces of reality as notable, because even just having a Democrat on to express his point of view leads to Trump publicly attacking Fox News. And they hear that. And it's why they try to stay away from those sorts of segments. But then here's a Fox host saying that Trump has gotten off the phone with a different Fox host with big news, as we've been hearing every day 5 times.
President Trump just spoke to Fox News' John Roberts a moment ago. He says he is now considering renewing Project Freedom, but he says this time around, the U.S. guiding ships through the Strait of Hormuz would be just one small piece of what would be a larger military operation. When it comes to peace negotiations, the president tells Fox the regime is, quote, going to fold. Joining us,
one of the reasons you might not have even heard about Operation Project Freedom or whatever it's called, Project Freedom, is because it came and went so fast. They announced that Project Freedom was going to guard ships and bring them through the Strait of Hormuz to get movement going again, and we'd have U.S. ships helping to guide them through so they don't get attacked by Iran. And then the next day, as it was about to start, they said never mind because the negotiations are going well. But now Trump's saying it's starting again as a part of a larger military operation. We looked at earlier in the show in an interview where Trump's like, I don't know, it could be 2 weeks. He doesn't know. No one knows. He's just completely meandering. So while we're on the topic of Fox News, I do think it's an important time for them not just to talk about Iran, but other similarly important issues like, quote, ball maxing is electrifying, addictive, euphoric, and transcendental, according to those pursuing bigger balls. This is a real Fox News headline. And I think that it's good that they're giving some time to such important subjects. Men's health reports on men injecting Surgelube and saline to maximize their scrotum size. And you know what I think? I think that I really should send this article to, I don't know, all the different people who support Trump so that they can get more courage to criticize him. It's just so boring, that joke. I'm just bored with it before I even finished it. Point is, like, they should get the balls back, right? That soundbite. We have that one.
Got to get his balls back.
Like, to all the people who are just bending the knee to Trump. That was supposed to... Okay. So, meanwhile, we are getting this reporting. CIA analysis finds Iran can survive Trump administration's Strait of Hormuz blockade for months. So Trump said this was going to be the nail in the coffin. We already beat them, but we'll beat them by doing this. But we did already defeat them, but we'll defeat them if we do this, which is the blockade. So they're blockading, but we're going to blockade their blockade, and then what are they going to do then? Ha! And so apparently we're now learning they could actually withstand this for a long time, much to the chagrin of Trump and what he's been arguing before. Now, it's not all negative on Fox News, okay? Of course, they do try to do pro-Trump propaganda best they can. I was just showing you the exceptions. Often you're still hearing stuff like this.
And he told us that Iran was within weeks of getting a powerful weapon that would destroy Israel, much of the Middle East, and could bring great harm to America. And he had no choice but to act. And I thanked him then for having the courage to fulfill his God-given responsibility to protect our nation. And you know, the great irony is it looks like President Trump has a better understanding of what the Bible teaches about the role of government than the Pope has.
Don't ever show your face on television again, sir. Your career is over. You have humiliated yourself beyond belief, and you should never speak on matters of Bible ever again. If you ever say, and I don't know a ton about the Pope, okay? I know he's Pope Leo the 14th. I know that he's from Chicago. I know that he's the first American Pope. And that's about it. And I know that he wants peace, okay? But if I know a little about Pope stuff, I think he reads the Bible, right? Is that one of the jobs? Probably no sex and Bible reading is like probably the two big things about Pope life and the robe. So for you to have the gall to come out and say Trump, who you know does not know the Bible at all, has a better understanding of it than the Pope is just so embarrassing. And finally, on gas prices, let me play this clip for you and see if you can guess what this guy on screen's job is in the Trump administration, if you don't know already, okay?
Do you think it's still very possible that gas prices will dip below $3 a gallon in time for summer, which is about 6 weeks?
I can't make any predictions about, oil prices or gasoline prices.
It popped up. I can't make any predictions about oil prices or gas prices, meaning I can't make any predictions or provide you much analysis on matters of energy, says the Energy Secretary. Cut to that, please. Says the Energy Secretary. Okay, Chris, what you on TV for then? Chris Wright, the Energy Secretary. I don't really want to speak to gas prices, energy prices. That's not really my area of expertise as the Secretary of Energy. So that's not helpful. What he means is no, gas prices aren't going to dip that low by summer, which they had previously said they're going to keep going. Well, but you should be grateful because by this date, they'll drop below $3. Now, by this date, and eventually it'll just be years down the road, potentially. We will have to see. The next story is a real fascinating one, but I do need to check in with the audience before we get to it. Stephen Leach sent a gifted membership. Very kind of you. Chitty Girl, member for 5 months, said it's working. Producer Jaden, member for 5 months, says don't forget to like the stream, everyone. Thank you for being here. Like it. Share it. Gosh, I cringe saying that. Like, share, and click the alert bell. Subscribe, girls. Whatever they say. Soroke says, FYI for the people who don't know, Hans polls public sentiment continuously in order to take advantage of markets and judge their ability to adjust prices. And then you have Alice in saying, Luke, I think, is amazing at speaking. Oh my gosh, thank you. In a way multiple generations can understand. I pay for a membership because I really do believe in him and his team's talent and importance to the moment right now. Well, that's a beautiful pitch for membership, and I appreciate you delivering it, and it really fills my heart up. Truly, I don't think you guys know. Some people think that your body's fueled off of food. Your motivation for life is fueled off of different things. Really, one of the things that fuels me is so many of your amazing bits of feedback. It fills all of our hearts up. I think I could speak for the crew and say that. Okay, on to this. Joe Rogan was visibly shocked by Republican Congressman Tim Burchett's theory about the Butler assassination. We have heard, really, it got extra inflamed after the White House Correspondents' Dinner attempted assassination, and that kind of brought people back to thinking about the first assassination attempt. I don't know why, but that was kind of what happened with the news cycle. And all of a sudden, polls are being done about how many people think which one was staged, and everyone has their different theories. And, right-wingers think that the Butler one, some of them do, was was directed by Biden, like Biden called Thomas Crooks to do it, and then liberals believe that it was staged, and then the White House Correspondents' Dinner was for blah, blah, blah. Right? It's all over the place. Well, Thomas Crooks, Tim Burchett, Tim Burchett says something I hadn't heard much yet as to what his theory was amid so many different swirling stories about the Butler assassination. Let's listen.
You're talking about a guy who showed up with a rifle or a shotgun. Shot a Secret Service agent, obviously in the vest. The guy's okay, but whatever you've been through, I apologize for the prior week. Magistrate Judge Zia Faroukwi, I don't know if I'm saying that right, said during a hearing in Washington, D.C. on Monday. According to the court.
I want to play this for you because it's going to be an interesting discussion. Just about how it feels that no one knows what's going on. Like, that's the big takeaway this time. I'm going to try not to reprimand any of you about conspiracy theorizing. I've done that like 10 times in the last 2 weeks. I'm just going to say no one knows what's going on. We're all just like, no one knows. We're all like, what's happening? And I think that's a symptom of the Trump era. He obliterated truth enough where we're all just sort of like, what is truth anymore? It seems. And by we, I don't mean me, but we. I'm saying we not to be offensive to anybody, but like us as a people, as a community, as a society. Anyways, but before we get to that, listen to Rogan try to pronounce that name and then Tim's reaction.
Showed up with a rifle or a shotgun. Shot a Secret Service agent, obviously in the vest. The guy's okay, but whatever you've been through, I apologize for the prior week. Magistrate Judge Zia Faroukwi, I don't know if I'm saying that right, said during a hearing.
He said, well, who the hell needs to pronounce it right anyways?
Hearing in Washington, D.C. on Monday. According to the court documents filed over the weekend, Allen had been in solitary confinement, oh, poor baby, at the D.C. jail after being placed on suicide watch after his arrest on April 25th. His lawyers said that he was housed in a permanently illuminated safe cell with no access to personal items or jail visits, despite repeated assessments showing he did not exhibit any suicide factors. In an order issued on Sunday, Faroukwi.
So this is talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter, but it's going to quickly shift, that you're about to hear, to the Butler discussion.
He wrote that he had grave concerns about the conditions Allen was being kept in, which he said were seemingly unprompted by the facts of the case. It could drive a person crazy to be in that situation, Faroukwi said during Monday's hearing. That is really crazy. That is really a crazy thing to apologize for someone who was trying to at least assume, you're assuming he was trying to kill the president.
And the guy's been programmed to do this. He immediately turns, from one way to the other. overnight almost, and we're seeing this more and more. I think.
What do you mean the guy's been programmed?
I think these people are.
You mean like MK Ultra type programming?
100%.
Really?
I think so, but it's a different. MK. You're the expert on it.
I'm not really.
Well,
don't say that.
No, I don't want to get you bumped off
Jamie
here.
knows more than I do about it.
Let somebody else go start your car when you walk out there and wait 30 minutes.
Don't make me an expert.
But, yeah,
I know nothing.
But the CIA, they were grabbing these people up and giving them, I guess, acid or LSD, whatever, and then programming them, and then they said they weren't doing it, and then they got sued, and they said, oh, we lied. We were doing it, but we're not doing it anymore. Now, which time are they not? So here's my thought on this. I think you've got a bunch of people today, because of this, it's just open up your head and pour it in, and they can put these things out to people just enough to where they know that there's going to be a reaction. There's some people, you and I are going to read this stuff and go, and there's some people that are just going to stay awake at night and just fume. I know people that read stuff and they'll call me and text me and said, can you believe this? And I'm like, dude, man, I live this stuff. Cool out. We're good. We're okay. And I think that these folks, they know who they are, and they can target them. How many of these people are we going to find that have no internet access, have no history of being on the internet,
right? Like Thomas Crooks.
Yeah, that's just
one's
total
nuts.
BS. Total BS. Oh, we let him on the roof, and
So I should be fair to him, shouldn't I? I mean, I guess it's so hard to decipher what they're saying sometimes. He's maybe not saying specifically Thomas Crooks was programmed or brainwashed, but he went on a thing about brainwashing MK Ultra as he's saying these people, referring to the attempted assassins, are being programmed by someone. But then he brings up phones. Are you just saying generally we're all being influenced mentally by watching social media a lot? Okay. But then he's saying that Thomas Crooks didn't have any access to the internet. That's not true. I'll show you in a second specific reports about the different things we learned from his internet history. But they all just repeat that blindly. We knew nothing about him. So he must have been a Biden op through an MK Ultra style program to brainwash him into trying to kill Trump. Seems to be what he's trying to say. Am I wrong? Is that kind of where he was going? I couldn't tell because they all are so vague. At least even though I've said stop with the stage stuff unless you have a really strong batch of evidence, but at least the people I've been seeing who are anti-Trump liberals, or members of this audience even who have perpetuated that, say specifically what they mean. They're like, I think it was staged to get the ballroom, okay? And we go, all right, what would the evidence be that you have? But there's a clear theory. Here's what they wanted. Here's what they tried to do. And I go, well, how would they have done this? Fine. Then you can get in that debate and then you can debunk it. But at least there's a theory. What bothers me is the Tucker Carlson's, I guess Tim Burchett too, here, just kind of say a lot of stuff and then go like a cute shrug. And you're like, wait, what were you saying? That sounded big. And then Rogan's like, yeah. Wait, no, ask him about was it the brainwashing? As a member of Congress, does he think there was a brainwashing operation that was done under the Biden administration to go take out Trump? Why did you bring that up? But they just kind of throw a lot of stuff and go, have fun with it. Choose your own adventure. What do you think I meant by that?
History of being on the internet.
Right, Thomas Crooks.
Yeah, that's just
one's
total
nuts.
BS. Total BS. Oh, we let him on the roof, and you know, and then
they couldn't get snipers on that roof because the slope was too steep.
Yeah, we had members of Congress that are older than I think Darrell Issa was there. I know a couple other guys were there too. I mean, he's an older guy. He's older than me. I think he was walking around up on it. And that's bogus. That's totally bogus. They put Trump in a bad position, and that's the thing. You'll never know.
There's another thing we should talk about.
Dead men tell no tales.
There's another thing we should talk about. There's a lot of people running around out there saying that first Trump assassination was a setup and that it was a hoax.
Okay, so Rogan goes on to go, hey, people are saying that the first one was staged. That's insane, right? And I've explained why I don't see compelling evidence of that. We were there personally, and it's the steps that would go into... Okay, again, I told you I'm not going to reprimand you this time about it, but Rogan's like, why would people believe that? Right after he just skipped past Tim Burchett having a brainwashing? He's going on to do the denouncing. Fine, denounce people coming up with the theories that aren't evidentially backed or would be very improbable about how this would all be coordinated. And Trump's incompetence doesn't seem to lend itself to be able to coordinate all of that just for a photo. But regardless... You just heard Tim Burchett bring up MK Ultra in relation to the White House Correspondents' Center, and now you're going to be like, but yeah, why do people believe staged? I think it's more complicated to brainwash someone into actually trying to kill the president than faking a killing of a president or an attempt. Whew.
And that Trump did it to try to get people to be more sympathetic to him. Anybody who says that doesn't know anything about guns.
No.
Because the...
Tim, you just brought up MK Ultra. Which, by the way, we looked into that, I think, on a bonus show, why that always gets brought up. And yeah, there were tests on how much you could mentally manipulate people, and then bad abuse is done in that process and lies told. And yes, that happens in a sense, there are real conspiracies that will get uncovered. But do you know how we prove those? With real evidence of those conspiracies. The times in history that we've uncovered big conspiracies, things that would have been previously believed to be unbelievable, is because people actually investigated and uncovered actual evidence. They didn't just sort of throw stuff out and go, maybe, and then everyone's like, woo. But then while the influencers, if you want to call it that, or the people with the megaphones do here's a bunch of random stuff, see how that blends up in your mental blender, the followers actually then get a concrete idea of what he's saying. And that's why you hear, we recently talked about, I think it was a Bulwark reporting about a focus group that Sarah Longwell did, or maybe it was a different outlet, I can't remember, but former Trump supporters, two-time Trump supporters were saying, some of them believe that like Biden had set up the Thomas Crooks thing to try to take out his political opponent, and a lot of them perpetuate that. That's why I warn all of you in our audience to not fall into evidence-free thinking, because it can get dangerous, and we see that if you start believing like many megaphone holders try to perpetuate that there was like a big they, the left, they tried to kill Trump, then they killed Charlie Kirk, then they did this, they did that. You start to characterize a whole side by some deranged, in the case of Butler, non-politically affiliated guy who was searching up, and this gets to the next point, searching up Democratic locations and Republican locations. But one part you hear, maybe we'll get back to this clip, I don't know. One part you hear over and over from people from a right-wing perspective who want to say that maybe this was like a deep state attempt to take Trump out with the whole Thomas Crooks Butler shooting. One of the things they'll repeat over and over is that how suspicious is it that a guy his age, that Thomas Crooks had no social media history, no internet history, no record of him existing as a human until he shot at Trump. And they just say it and you go, that is suspicious. What? And then you go, wait, is that even true? No. Because then if that were true, how would we know this? Trump shooter searched for info on RNC and DNC. This is a deranged person who started to maybe believe, like in this extra demented way, that all of our political leaders needed to be taken out. Some people get that mindset, and then he took it to an obviously violent extent. But we learned about his search history in the lead up, which revealed a bunch in that article. I've gone through much of this with you before, so I don't need to get into tons of details. But just to demonstrate this, you have before Thanksgiving 2023, this is CBS reporting on the whole details of his life leading up to this. Thomas Crook's online life was fairly routine for a 20-year-old. He'd scroll through social media, listen to music on Spotify, visit news sites, peruse Reddit. We have records of this, but a plan for mass violence was brewing, and in order for it to cease, Crooks had to compartmentalize his life, etc., etc. You have friends speaking to what they knew at the time, and then we even learned that he was into muscle mommies online. We got specific enough in his internet history to learn his fascination, according to the New York Post, with muscle mommies. We have videos that he recorded of himself, as you can see here. Why are they saying there's no record of him or his internet history? You have comments that he left on YouTube that people have uncovered. You have all these different things. Now, I get why people get question marks. Fine, have question marks when they see headlines like FBI never shared newly unearthed Thomas Crooks posts, stonewalled investigation according to certain congressional representatives, and that was Representative Mike Kelly and Pat Fallone, so two Republicans. So they're saying we didn't get the extent of his social media history, but then they learned about the muscle mommies. That really caused a lot of question marks. What's all this muscle mommy talk? We got to clamp down on the muscle mommy community. They're radicalizing people. They're really radicalizing people, I'm telling you. No, but like, okay, yeah, if you don't feel like you've had enough information, ask for more information. Definitely. But this idea that he was completely non-existent online is not true. You have different documentation of different things. So just operate within what we did know. This account, this is from the New York Post, offers the fullest picture yet of Mr. Cook's life, although many aspects of his background and mental health are still unknown. The Times reporting is based on thousands of pages of his school assignments. They were able to find emails, logs of his internet activity, as well as text messages, government reports, and interviews with dozens of people who knew him or are familiar with this case. So you want to know more? Fine. Get it. Got it. Love it. Don't perpetuate a false idea that we don't know anything about him. And you can go read it in depth if you'd like to learn more. But they always say this about there was no internet history. It's just not factual. Now, if they feel like we should have been presented in our congressional investigation with some of the other social media posts that they were aware but didn't share, ask for it. Get transparency. You know I want it. I love it. But the way that a lot of the right-wing voices, like Rogan you heard there, Tim Burchett, get people hooked on this may have been a deep state attempt to take Trump out is by going, how suspicious is it that a 20-year-old wouldn't have a social media history or an internet history? That's weird. And people go, yeah, without even looking into if that's the case. And then I referenced this. Many Americans think Trump assassination attempts were fake survey finds. This is bonkers. You see what I'm talking about? About like we're all, feels like we as a society are starting just to not know what to believe. About 1 in 4 say the Correspondence Dinner shooting was staged. 1 in 4! 25% of the whole country. 1, 2, 3. Someone in this room thinks that. Joe, move! I'm not going down like this! So, I mean, we're all a very confused society right now. We don't know. And I blame singularly Trump for that. And by that, I don't mean he's the only force that has deteriorated trust in the government and law enforcement, but he is the most powerful catalyst for that lack of trust, for that post-truth world that we're now living in. But just because it feels that way doesn't mean we can't still rely on evidence, fact-based reporting, and be very cautious with our conclusions that we draw, which is what I'm asking everyone. Don't get too high on the conspiracy theory supply, even though it can be fun. Because you see, and I think you can all recognize it being irrational, as I just showed you with the Rogue and Tim Burchett version of it. But whenever it's a more packaged for your liking version, some people kind of get titillated off of it. I'm getting back into my reprimanding. I promise not to do that. So have fun. What if it was actually a muscle mommy? Should we go? Let's just have fun with it. No, obviously very tragic event. Someone died. That's very horrible and heartbreaking. But I just wanted to take you down that little journey with what was going on Rogan's podcast. And Tim Burchett so casually throwing that out and no follow-up. What are you alleging, sir? Talking about MK Ultra? You look like you got MK Ultra'd by a goat. See if you can figure that one out. Okay, where did I leave off? Oh, you have a little marker here. Just a couple comments that Kayla wanted me to read. You have Tinker Kells saying, I didn't know who Rogan was when I was with my ex who listened to him. If I did, I would have left a lot sooner. Woo. Allison said, my favorite part of conspiracies is that people are so powerful to do all these secret dark things, but they leave little breadcrumbs of clues online for some guy in his basement to decode. I love that part. They're so, I mean, you said it best, I'm just going to repeat it, but they're so powerful that like the whole world's being controlled by this small group of whoever, but then constantly like put little clues for us to find. Oh, but this, and I know that like the Candaces of the world say that that's a part of what they get off on is to do like numbers, like this will happen on this date to send the message that the next thing's going to happen on this, and that's what they get off on. Okay. But I've watched this administration with my eyeballs, and they're so incompetent. I don't know if they could pull that. It would be a compliment if I believed some of these conspiracies. It would be a compliment to the Trump administration. I would say, you're competent enough to do a conspiracy. I feel like if any of this happened, it would have leaked. Everything, Susie Wiles is having her memos telling people not to leak. So I feel like we would find out a little bit more evidence than just like, this was sus. Because that's the other part I want to say about this. There was, and maybe we'll include this in the segment, there was suspicious elements. Some of you might feel gaslit by me not acknowledging this. Let me make sure you know. I agree. They didn't get on the roof because it was too sloped, and you're going to leave a roof open, and then a guy's going to get up there and people are shouting. But again, people are sometimes incompetent. And then why was their explanation that it was too sloped? That's so dumb. Because they're trying to cover that they just almost let the former president die, right? So like the weird explanations and the contradictions, yes, could be because they're covering up some big plot that was all coordinated by somebody, or it could be that they're embarrassed that they let it get so close because they made mistakes. We just learned that a Secret Service agent was caught in a hotel hallway beating his little Secret Service agent, okay? I can't even do the joke. Okay, I'm not even gonna. Okay, so put something to the ear with the Secret Service agent and a little. So he does it, right? He's masturbating in a hallway, in public, and a lady's like, "Hey, whoa," calling the police. This guy gets caught, trousers down, masturbating. Secret Service agent, right after protecting Trump. Yeah, could that guy have accidentally let Thomas Crooks get on a roof? Yes. I don't know if it was him, but that happened. My point is these aren't like flawless people. And I love people brave enough to serve in the military or serve in Secret Service or work in the police if they're good police. But man, they can also sometimes be incompetent. And that could be the reason why so many suspicious elements of this took place. You know what I mean? Yes. Okay. One other comment. You have Zeno Tisidro, member for 18 months, saying, I'm hoping our fellow Texans will reject the gerrymandering oligarchs and pedos this time around. Also, why are y'all drinking non-craft beer in Austin? When was this? I gotta get you in the mic. I can't hear you.
Sorry, it was just for you. I think it's about our Coronas on Friday.
Can I hear that? Was the mic on? Is that going through? It's not going through my ear.
You hear me?
Maybe I turned it off.
Uh-oh.
It's probably my fault. It's always
okay.
my fault. But regardless, what did we do? Corona?
We had Coronas on Friday.
Coronas, yeah. Well, you know what? I drink what I want to drink, and you can't stop me. So, try, see what happens. All right, I don't know how to. You can take that down. Let's get into this, shall we? Let's just get into this. So, think about this. Imagine you got a little bit of a little splinter in your finger, and you're like, "Ow, that hurts." And then your friend said, "Oh, you know what you could do to make your finger not hurt? Is go get a chainsaw and chop off your arm." You would say, hey, that's stupid. Okay? So you're following so far. Now imagine the splinter. You know what? Let's abandon the metaphor. Imagine now we're talking about Iran and Cuba. And Trump seems to be thinking that maybe people will stop being angry at him over him invading and starting a war with Iran if he starts a war with Cuba. It seems like you're just doing more of the stuff people don't want, and I don't know if that'll make people support you more. More than 20, and now we're having signs that war is on the way with Cuba, okay? I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but we're seeing the signs that it is going to happen. U.S. spy flights surge on Cuba, mimicking pre-Venezuela action. So the type of, the chatter they talk about in like crime or the in government shows, that like we're picking up on more chatter that we've only ever heard this amount of chatter before this terrorist attack. It's like that, but for military resources. You're picking up on military chatter, on the spy flights, on the allocation of military resources that we only saw and would indicate a Venezuela type action, obviously, before the Maduro operation. Here, it could be even more complicated than that. And are we really going to start another war before the other war's over? It seems like Trump might. Because if he starts enough wars, I think he thinks you might all just forget that he started any in the first place. Kind of like how he always has a scandal. There's always a new Trump scandal, and at some point people stop listening to any of the scandals. Weird. More than 20 U.S. intelligence gathering flights have been reportedly conducted near the Cuban coast since February, mirroring President Donald Trump's pattern of buildup before military action in Venezuela and Iran. So we saw this similar thing. They're doing surveillance. They're making a plan. U.S. Navy and Air Force aircraft and drones have surged near Cuba since early February, according to an analysis from CNN on Sunday. So the point is you can get a lot into the specifics, and we're talking about Havana, and we're going to talk about RC-135V. It's just like, who needs it? We don't need to hear about that. I understand it, but you guys might not if I read you all the specifics. You know, the P-8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol Aircraft. You start seeing those all over the place. Point is the experts are saying that's a sign of something. I'll just be frank with you. I don't know. Is it? They're saying that it is. And that this is what we saw before both Venezuela and Iran. And so then the question has to be asked. Some people would go, listen, yes, Trump ran against these types of wars. Trump said he was going to be a peace president. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He's going to end wars. He's not going to start wars. But he just really had to do it in Iran because they were going to get a nuke, even though we can't demonstrate that with our intelligence. And actually, the last intelligence report contradicts that. Tulsi Gabbard said that wasn't the case. But trust us, it really was going to be, we believe Bibi Netanyahu. And it was 2 weeks away this time. We know he said that. We know he said that since he was 12 years old, but it really is this time. This time it really is 2 weeks away with a nuclear. So while yes, Trump doesn't want to do war, doesn't need to do foreign intervention on this, it's a special exception because it was so pressing. That was the argument from a lot of people, was it not? No, it's not that he's contradicting his... You remember me debating with Michael Knowles over this? It's not that he's contradicting his campaign promises. It's just that the conditions have become so pressing and urgent that he has an obligation as a commander-in-chief to deal with it. Again, the facts contradict that, but that was their argument. Now, he's going for a third war to start. And I know Venezuela was a little bit simpler. Maybe you don't call that a war. But it had the potential for that outcome. And here definitely could too. Who knows the consequences? And this seems to just be the exact opposite of what Trump was saying his administration was going to be about. We didn't buy it, but a lot of people did, that he was going to be a peace president. And right before the election, they had the peace ticket. You know, I think it was vote, if you want peace, vote for Vance and Trump. And they were saying Kamala is going to start wars with everybody. And now Trump's literally starting wars with one country after another. And it seems that intelligence coming out to the press is indicating that. And it doesn't feel good when you hear on the current war the type of confusion coming from Trump that we do.
You were going to be meeting with the generals on Iran. You rejected the deal from Iran over the weekend. Can you tell us anything about that proposal and what, if any,
it was just
made to break this deal?
Yeah, it was just unacceptable. You know, a lot of people said, well, does he have a plan? Yeah, of course they do have the best plan ever. I mean, Iran has been defeated militarily, totally. They have a little left. They probably...
So as we've been reviewing, I don't want to get you bored. We've seen this over and over and over throughout today's show, but he just keeps repeating there's a plan, but I can't tell you what it is because it's a secret, because it's all...
I have concepts of a plan.
And it would ruin the plan if I told you how soon it could be over, but it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 48 years. We don't know. And then he keeps doing this thing where he's like, it's going to be over so soon, but also look at all these other wars that lasted a really long time. Hey, we could go longer. Look at Vietnam, he'll say. Why aren't you giving me credit? We haven't been in this war as long as Vietnam. That doesn't feel like a convincing argument, dude. And amid this type of leadership failure, he wants to start another military operation abroad. How? You couldn't write this type of absurdity. My goodness. Shoo-wee. Let's talk about Marjorie Greene next, shall we? We discussed last week the rollout of the UFO files, as they're being called, or UAP files, or alien files. And we already started to get the sense that while, hey, if there's something fascinating or notable about extraterrestrial life that we should be aware of as citizens, I'm not even saying you need to tell us about all of it. A lot of it I don't even want to hear about. If right now there is aliens living among us, like just, it could be Jaden, it could be Cole, it could be Kayla, and you just don't know, and eventually Jaden could be like, and then go, and like bite my face off, I would rather not know. I really would. So there's some stuff I want the government to keep a secret. If they have a whole aircraft, an alien aircraft, but they don't know exactly where it came from or what to do, I might not want to know about that. But some stuff I could know about. But what did I say last week? I said, we will not allow this to be used as a distraction. You want to release it? I'll read it on my own timetable. If I want to read what you're revealing, watch some videos, that's kind of suspicious. I wonder what that was. At this point in time, none of the documents I've seen have some huge bombshell that confirms anything, but there's always the interesting videos of what did this military plane pick up on its radar, and that was moving weird. And okay, if I want to read that before I'm going to bed, fine. But I will do it on my own time, and I will not allow it to distract from Trump's failures, which seems like why this moment was when he thinks it was pressing to release, right? So it can both be the case that, sure, release some stuff, I don't know, and I'm not going to let you use it for the end goal that I know you want to use this for, Trump. And it seems that former MAGA Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene agrees with this logic. She wrote, "The most transparent administration in history still hasn't released all the Epstein files or arrested anyone, but rolled out some UFO files today. So you would get so excited that you forgot you are paying over $4.50 a gallon because they are fighting another foreign war. They said they would no longer fight. Happy Friday, everyone." Wow, that's kind of depressing. Did you see Trump did that thing on social media again where he's like, "Happy Mother's Day to all, except for especially the radical left mommies who like to always run around being radical left lunatics and muscle mommies. These weird mommies." I'm trying to find this post. I'm stalling a little bit because I'm trying to find this post, but he posts so much. Look at this, just since Mother's Day, over and over and over. I really would love to. I'm going to show you. I'm going to get back to the alien thing, but I need to show you how much Trump is manically posting on Truth Social, as he should be spending time with, I don't know, Melania. That Melania who has a son that Trump knows about, but maybe doesn't realize it's his son. Happy Mother's Day to all, especially the 115,000 Americans who got jobs in April. He's bragging about 115,000, even though, of course, Biden crushed those numbers on the regular. My goodness, you've never seen a post like this all on Mother's Day from the president. I don't think we're going to get to it. Oh, this is 3 days ago. Where did it go? Anyways, at one point he said, I can't even find it in the spam posts there when he should be, I don't know, being president or celebrating Melania. But he was like, Happy Mother's Day to the radical left mommies. And so there, that's kind of Marjorie saying, Happy Friday, everyone, but we're not going to let this distract. Hey, I agree. You also saw, as we covered, Rogan going, this timing seems a little convenient.
That aspect of it makes sense. What doesn't totally make sense is why now disclosure, other than, this is being cynical. The Iran war is not going very well. American public's very upset. A lot of people don't think we should have ever been involved in that in the first place, and we need some good news.
I think we
need something to distract us. We need something to take our focus off of.
If I was going to do it, now would be the time I'd do it. But I don't think Trump really even cares. I think he just wants to get it out there.
Well, I think he does too. He's talked about it, and he's also.
So people are picking up on it. I think it's a little bit too obvious. If a lot of these videos and documents they're releasing are from a while ago, I think I saw way back. Did you see one way decades ago? Suspicious videos or interviews they had with astronauts about what they think they saw in relation to extraterrestrial life or certain ships moving weirdly. So decades this hasn't been released. Then right now you're like, now we need to do it. Right now, during the war, we need to. It's kind of obvious. It's obvious what they're doing. Now, what I don't think is happening is what Alex Jones thinks is happening with these alien files. Let's see.
And we've seen this build up the last 5 years really intensely, with all these clear disinformation agents coming into Congress, putting out rabbit trails that go nowhere, obscuring what's really happening, claiming that there's about to be this huge disclosure so they can focus people on their disinformation, and then going around basically with government-sponsored clergy response teams that in the past they set up to tell churches, turn in your guns during martial law, things like that. These are government-controlled pastors. Now they have these government-controlled pastors under an FBI program called InfraGard. And it's also connected to NASA and the CIA. It's all public. Going around saying, I'm a pastor that works for intelligence agencies, and the aliens are real, and you need to get ready to have your faith shaken and about the Bible and Jesus. And they're using it to undermine, really, Christianity, saying they're defending it. So this is a larger psyop just to screw with everybody's brains and to just further shake confidence in society. That is 100% what's going on here. And they're also setting the precedent to do a false flag and claim it's aliens to create even more hysteria. So this is queuing up and preparing what is colloquially known. It's not an official document. There are official documents. But for decades, it's been known as Blue Beam.
So It's one thing to allege that Trump knows. Yeah, go ahead. Someone asked, do you want to release some of these files about what we think we have seen throughout history in relation to potential unknown technology? And Trump's like, yeah, you know what? Do that, because hopefully people will talk about that and it'll take some heat off of my issues. That's one thing to allege. It's a whole nother thing that I have seen no evidence for, that this is being released to set up a false flag that's going to be blamed on aliens. What does that mean? And I don't know why they throw all those things out. We talked about this with Tim Burchett being like, Thomas Crooks maybe was brainwashed, but who knows? And they just kind of say some stuff and then no one ever circles back. What is it that you're saying is going to happen? Like a terrorist attack, and then they're going to say it was aliens? Why wouldn't they be like, it was Iranians? If it was a false flag attack, wouldn't they be like, oh, then that would give Trump better reason to be at war with Iran? What's the false flag that's going to happen? With aliens, I feel like that would cause people to know it was a false flag, because there's so many. If you did a false flag, let's imagine the terrorist attack example. You know how people go, 9/11 was an inside, whatever. So, but let's imagine that's what you're thinking, okay? Like a 9/11 style terrorist attack that they're going to then blame on. It was actually the Trump administration that did it, or the deep state, but they're going to blame it on someone else. That's the false flag idea, okay? To get some outcome. What is the outcome they're hoping to get if they blamed a false flag event on aliens? That we would go to war with Mars? What's the thought process here? We're going to go invade Uranus? Oh, shoot. You just don't get that. You just don't get that every day. Something that beautiful.
I never sucked any ding-dongs.
Oh my gosh. Invade Uranus, man. That's title of my autobiography. Okay. I don't know why that's tickling me way more than the crew. This is so good. Because I didn't even know it was going to go there. God just said, here you go. Here it is. Yeah, what's the idea? What's the idea here, Alex? I don't get it. Whew, I lost my breath. Let me take a little bit of a breath break. Was I wrong? Was I reading his old? This one that I found, a Happy Mother's Day to all, in particular the mothers, wives, and lovers of the radical left fascist Marxists. That was 2023. So maybe I was thinking someone was recirculating that, and that's what I was thinking of. But then this Mother's Day, he touted jobs numbers that, again, were good. I'm happy we had a strong job month, but the average job growth in Trump's term is abysmal. Just a few months ago, Jerome Powell was saying we've had essentially net zero job growth. Like, it's just strong job market. Trump takes office, screeches to a halt. So occasionally you'll have some good months. I bet you next month or in a couple months, April's numbers are going to be revised down all the way down to zero or something, given what we've seen with these revisions under the Trump administration. But if it stays strong, I want to have strong job growth. Awesome. You should have stronger job growth than that, given what you inherited. But what a weird thing to make Mother's Day about. Okay, where did I leave off? This is the question that we all ask ourselves every day. Here we go. VS Code Red, member for a month, said it's wild that MTG wants to point out Trump's distractions as a distraction from her own political history. Oh, shoot. Could be. I know I need more of a mea culpa. Is that so crazy to ask a Marjorie mea culpa? I need her to give a little bit more of a, here's why I did the things I did, as opposed to like, I'm cool now. That's it. Update. Whole W Milk said if you liked Project Hail Mary, non-human shaped alien, you'd probably like Flight of the Navigator, 1986. You guys ever seen it? Especially Kayla as a fellow millennial. AI is voiced by Paul Rubens. Classic. 1986, you're saying is when the movie came out, is a little bit early in terms of where I draw the line of movies that I will find interesting. Only because alien movies that were made in 1986 usually are they're just figuring out CGI. You know, they're like, hey, we could do Photoshop. And it's like usually not, given how used to my brain is to consuming content that has amazing special effects and stuff, 1986 usually doesn't live up to it, but maybe I'll check it out. Sassafrasi Sassy excuse me, member for 3 months, said, love you guys, love you back. Intuition Jen said, the show has touched on MK Ultra, Project Bluebeam. What is the next one? I actually don't have any more conspiracy-related things for you today. But it's been a pretty interesting show, huh? We're going all over the place. You'll love to see it. We have one more segment, and it's going to be hell. So get ready. No, I'm kidding. It's just like a sort of wacky press conference. Let me cue this up. Here we go. While this is getting all set, please, if you're a podcast listener, I do ask, leave a review and drop a rating. Okay, that's what I meant to say. Click the rating. Click the 5 stars, there we go, and leave a review. Unless you're going to be a meanie pants and leave less than 5 stars, don't worry about it. I don't know why you got this far in the show if you don't like it, but 5 stars would be great. And then if you do have any critiques, you could drop it in the comments on Spotify. Now they have that function, or you could put that as a review. But, people might read those and see if they want to listen to the show. Maybe you'd be nice, I don't know. We put a lot of effort into the show. And then if you're watching this live right now, just remember, Monday through Friday, sort of between the hour of noon and 1 Eastern time, we start the show, and then we usually go for about 90 minutes, but you can watch it back whenever you like. We leave the whole VODs on the homepage of the YouTube channel, and for some reason, I feel like there's something special about people who like to consume the whole body of work as opposed to just, this title of one short video got me. The people who really get it. The people, you want to get it, and the people who get it, they listen to the whole show. You don't have to listen front to back, but like that version of it. Okay, let's get into this. Trump held a press conference on maternal health. Yikes, right? Not something he's great on, despite him describing himself as the father of fertility. Yes, thank you, Kayla. You, indeed. He said that in this press conference that he's the father of fertility. Real nasty, real gross. Now, I don't have a ton about the substance of this press conference. As I've told you before, I'm tired of letting them come out and pretend like they accomplished things before they've actually accomplished them. So we'll look at the results of his presidency. I'm not just going to give him an open mic to be like, hey, here's all the things that we might do that are great, and we're going to lower all prices by 700% and get to run his propaganda when he hasn't actually done it. But this was interesting because he was, as the press conference was getting going, was saying, I'm going to have to rush out of this to go meet with my generals because some stuff's happening with Iran.
Dorothy Fink and Dr. Alex Adams, and you'll speak not too long because I am being waited on by a large group of generals, and that's also important, having to do with the absolutely lovely country of Iran. That's the way they pronounce it.
Well, we will get started.
Apparently, they pronounce it Iran. Iran. Like someone who's very succinctly saying their name is Ron. Iran. Why say many words when few words do trick? So he's saying, I'm going to have to rush out of here. I got to rush out to get to my generals because we got big Iran stuff. Maybe today's the day that we either end the war that we already ended or continue the military operation that's already finished. But here was the end of the press conference, and then we'll get into some clips in between where he clearly isn't too urgently trying to get out of there because he's talking about how healthy he is despite being unhealthy.
I'm a similar age to all of you. Very similar. I feel the same as them. I actually feel. For sure. I don't know what this is. I feel the same as I did 50 years ago. Yeah. It's crazy. Someday there'll be a day when that won't happen. I'll let Bobby and Oz know, It's not quite the same. But I feel literally the same. I don't know why. It's not because I eat the best foods. Maybe they are the best foods. Who knows what the best foods are? Maybe junk food is good and the other food is no good. I know people that...
No, please, Trump. I've been telling everybody to eat real food, please.
Eat the best food. They go to a restaurant, they have celery, and I don't want... And I'll have steak and everything else. And I say, how you doing? Well, it's over for me at a young age. And all they do is watch it. I know many, many people that all they do is watch their weight, their this, their that. And they kicked the bucket, and here we are. I feel great. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time.
Thank you, guys.
Pulitzer Prize winner.
Thank you, guys.
So that's how it ended. All right, now I got to get to the generals. They kicked my friends who ate celery, kicked the bucket, and here I am. All right, generals, what do we need to do with Iran? Doesn't make me feel good. That's the guy who's going in to manage situation room situations, especially because you know what I started to realize? Think about how often he probably dozes off in the situation room. Like, he's dozing off in front of cameras. Imagine the situation room, some generals talking kind of at this tone of voice that's a little bit seductive and calming about we have different assets and the reason we're Trump's out. He's going to fall asleep. And I think that's actually probably better for our national security if during military operations he's sleeping. You know what I mean? That's probably better. But here was him at this press conference just not able to keep his eyes open.
During the earliest years of their children's lives. Second, we are cutting unnecessary red tape that forced providers to close, limited access to care, and made it harder for working.
He tries to always conceal it as like, I'm just looking really intently. You know, he told us one time when he was asked about why he keeps falling asleep in meetings whenever he attacked his political opponent as Sleepy Joe Biden. And he previously went on a rant saying you'll never see him sleeping in public. It would just be the most humiliating thing. But then he's sitting there, and whenever he was asked, why do you keep falling asleep? He was like, no, I'm reading notes. I'm reading notes very intently. Well, interesting because I saw a different angle of the desk and there's no notes there, but you're still doing that thing where your eyes are closed. And then there's this.
Based on this, we're investing a lot of money training more people to work in rural America, and we're also using telehealth tools so you.
Yeah, Sleepy Joe Biden supposedly, huh? Now, when Trump was awake, he wanted us to know that he is the fertility daddy.
But the first time I really heard about the fertility was through Katie. She said, "Sir, we have to do something." And I'm a quick study, so I learned everything there is to learn in about 3 or 4 minutes. And I became the father of fertility.
That is true.
No, it just made a lot of sense to me.
So he says that he's the father of fertility. Gross, obviously, yes.
Please come, President Trump. They're begging us to come.
But just remember the story is that you had IVF threatened in Alabama, the state that Katie Britt is a senator from. And so the place that story comes from, if you're curious, is that because of Trump getting justices onto the Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade, that put into jeopardy IVF clinics, which then caused Katie Britt to reach out to Trump and say, you need to make clear you're not trying to target IVF. And so then Trump literally just said that. And that to him means he saved IVF. It's just ludicrous and obviously a gross wording. Now, I want our sperm count, like I want men's sperm count to be the best. I just want to make clear. I just don't want to hear about men's sperm count from RFK Jr. Now, he's the HHS secretary, so that is something he needs to be concerned with. I get it. But could we just get someone, could he write out what he wants to say and someone else says it? Because hearing him talk about how he's proud of Trump for caring about anything related to sperm, I just don't want to hear about it from them. I don't know why.
Crisis, and that is part of this program. We're looking at the impact of metabolic challenges, which directly affect fertility, of obesity, which affects fertility, of endocrine disruptors, of pesticides, of this toxic soup that our young women are walking around today to try to figure it out. The fertility crisis for women began in 2007. For men in 1970, men had twice the sperm count as our teenagers do today. This is an existential crisis for our country. We had a series of presidents that were trying to discourage childbirth and motherhood in this country. We now have a president that is trying to encourage it, and I want to thank you again for your leadership.
I just got tickled because Fact Post, the account on X, worded this as RFK Jr. thanks Trump for working to increase young men's sperm count. And I don't know why that was like, I'm the father of fertility. Come here, let me take a look at you. I'll get your word count. And RFK Jr.'s like, it is. They don't have enough. There's not enough sperm in their balls, Mr. President. This is an existential crisis. That's like a dramatic scene. And he picks up the phone, Mr. President. Or, you are on the phone with the President of the United States. What can I do for you, Bobby? we have an existential crisis in the United States. There's not enough sperm in their balls. And it's like, boom, boom. That's what I'm picturing. I don't know why. But yes, we want the best sperm count. We're America. We got the life, liberty, high sperm count. So there's that. And then you get to this, just a humiliation ritual. Trump admits that, hey, Katie Britt, I will only pretend like I like you as long as you say you like me.
Supporting the journey of American moms at every stage is so important to the success of our nation. I'd now like to ask Senator Katie Britt. She's the one that got me into this, I have to tell you. I hope she always remains loyal to me so I can continue to support her.
You got it.
I would hate to go against her. That will never happen, Katie, right?
He's just admitting. It's not that he stands on principles and then supports people who believe in the principles he stands for. It's just, if you stay nice to me, then I will be nice to you. He tries to have sort of a badass moment right here and do I was hunted and now I'm the hunter, where they can make a cool like a cool edit out of it, but then he stumbles so many times. It was kind of like that one moment in the gubernatorial debate in California where one of the candidates was like, you can't hold Trump accountable when you're his dad. He's your daddy. And they're like, dang it, you want to get that sound. Trump similarly wanted to have they hunted me, but now I'm the hunter. But he couldn't quite nail it.
Perhaps that's experience. I always knew that, we were being just absolutely decimated. But, I was hunted. I was the hunter. Now I'm I was the hunted then, and I had to devote a lot of time to that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been too effective. If I was out of office, I wouldn't have been. I was hunted by some very bad people. Now I'm the hunter. It's much better when you're the hunter.
Okay, so it didn't land. Kind of like Heg says, and to our enemies, F-A-F-O. And then no one was into it. One guy went, yeah, in the audience. And then Trump, I guess, thinks everyone has autism.
I mean, there's another word, autism, that we're very much involved with. And
you're involved with the word? We're examining. Why do they choose autism? What are these words? Why is dyslexia so hard to spell? It's like we're really trying to get to the bottom of these words.
I have my own ideas, but Oz and Bobby and everybody, they're really focused on it very hard.
Very hard.
I think in a certain way, I would like you to look at the payment schedules, Bobby, because I think it's very skewed because of the payment schedules. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
We're bringing you some ideas.
I think it has to be. I think it's just crazy. I think that's what's happening. Can't pay more for that to a doctor. I mean, every person around is going to have autism. That's what's happening. So,
yeah,
because I really believe that that's very badly skewed. But
yeah, everyone. I don't even want to hear about him talking about autism anymore because he's so clueless. He's so deeply clueless. That vaccines, whatever, and he tries to link them despite all of the evidence that there's not linkage. But then he's saying that this is all being looked into very hard by his administration. And finally, you have this.
Whatever is bad, I'm going to go for it, and they'll approve what's good. Finally, no, they've got serious Trump derangement syndrome, which actually is a disease. I'm hearing it is actually a disease. It's an honor.
Okay, so it's an actual disease. I'm starting to realize the only people with actual Trump derangement syndrome are the people who still support him. The only people who have been so deranged by him are the people who still support him right now.
These motherfuckers are crazy.
Perfect ending. Let's end there, shall we? Just quickly, though, you have Danny G for Democracy, member for 12 months, saying, big week in my B-Day. Happy birthday. Mother's Day. And my amazing son, Jake, turned 21. Happy birthday, Jake. Love the show. Luke, CBC, Jaden, and Kayla are all awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you so much. And then Holly Nimitz said, OMG Luke, you need to see Flight of the Navigator. Okay, I got no promises, but maybe. Thank you all so much for watching this extra long show. What a journey it has been. I appreciate all of you so much. Much love. Talk to you next time.